say let the good times roll. I say, no, for here and now, it's let the good times turn.
Okay.
And FYI, that's my last carving commission. Buddha.
Your final or your most recent?
But
Your most recent?
it's my most recent one. That's a hollow vessel for what we're talking about today. Something that's a closed form. It's empty on the inside, obviously. Actually, not obviously. I went to a gallery once, years and years ago, where a guy who was president of West Bay had a hollow form, which just had a hole drilled down the middle. And I thought that was cheating.
Wouldn't that be a doorstop?
Could be.
Or a weed pot?
So and with a fairly small opening, and you know, we'll go through that with Roy later. So I thought I'd do a little bit on the history of hollow forms, because a lot of us are new to wood turning, and this whole thing of artistic wood turning, quote unquote, whatever, hasn't been around all that long. It basically got started like during World War II. There was a guy in Oakland who started making bowls, whose name I can't think of, but he was a conscientious objector and got stuck on a lathe up north of San Francisco Bay, or on a farm, and they had a lathe, and he started making bowls, and this lady from New York came by and said, "Don't ever stop making these, they're great, I'll take everything you've got for my gallery in New York." And that's kind of where this whole artistic thing got started. Before that, it was all trainware and architectural stuff and everything. Hollow vessels didn't come along until the 70s. David Ellsworth, who you may have heard of, died just a couple of years ago. Literally invented the process and made his own tools and everything, which some people like Roy are still doing. Well, not really after him, but kind of like at the same time. A guy named Dennis Stewart in Oregon put out the first turning tool set for hollow vessels, which I'll show you later, because they're what I use today. Still, I bought them back then. And then along came John Jordan, who, this is a screenshot of the cover of Fine Woodworking, where he wrote an article about how to do these vessels, which I just thought were so cool, because they've got just a tiny opening in the top. How the hell do you do that, you know? And I wanted to make one for years. I finally made one for the President's Challenge a couple of years ago. Roy and I did this. Roy did the metal work, obviously. But as you can see, it's only got a teeny tiny opening in there. It's completely hollow. And this is done by cutting the neck off, hollowing it, and then fitting the neck back in. And then the carving helps to hide the joint a little bit. If I do say so myself, you can't even see it. And I think his article on fine woodworking really opened up the idea of doing hollow vessels to people. Then from there, it kind of branched out, and a lot of people have done them. One of my very favorite wood artists is Liam Flynn, who's no longer with us. He died just a few years ago. He wasn't very old. I don't think he was 50 yet. But he does these lovely hollow carved vessels that are just, I meant to bring his book. He's got a book called Fluid Forms, which is gorgeous work. So simple, seemingly so easy, but just spectacular, in my opinion. And then going on today. Probably a guy that most of you have heard of, Mike Tchaikovsky, who's pretty much does nothing but hollow vessels as far as I know. And Bill just got a set of his tools, which we'll show when we talk about tools. But he does them with these really pretty small openings, and not using the removing the neck trick. So I find them pretty impressive. And then there have been lots of technological advances along the way, as we'll talk about, with all these tools. You know, it started with David Ellsworth's handmade stuff, and then the Dennis Stewart set, and then Sorby got into it, and I forget who makes the hollow roller set, which I will have a picture of later. But
That Carter.
Carter?
Carter.
Carter, that's right. Thank you, Larry.
And everybody else. Like 8 of us.
And you know, I had Larry bring in his big bar because it's interesting and different. There was a guy named Frank Sudol that did these tall, very thin turnings, and he started the whole piercing thing. You know, you can buy tools now that turn at something like 100,000 RPM or something. Don't you have one of those?
The carving tool?
Yeah.
380,000 RPM.
Okay. Yeah. Frank started all that using an old dental drill machine, and then he was the mentor who taught Ben Fo. If you people know Ben Fo, if you don't know Ben Fo, look him up. Just absolutely spectacular stuff. Not just for his hollowing, but for his artwork on the hollowing. He was a refugee from South Vietnam, and he was a boat people, escapee, whatever, as a child, and a lot of his work had to do with stories from his childhood and stuff in Vietnam, and it's just spectacular. And he died a few years ago also, but I remember Tommy Ovaldi knew him and stuff, so it'd be interesting to talk to him about Ben. Okay, enough of that. That's sort of the history of them, where they came from. Okay, so some examples. You can do it with burl. This is one of the very first ones that I ever did, years and years ago. Yeah, it took like 10 years to sell it, but somebody finally bought it. It's one of those things where I put a high price on it, and if you don't pay that and I have to keep it, that's okay. You know. But that's burl wood. Redwood burl works really well. The top is charred. Let's see what's up next. Another very similar one. That one lives in New York. And this one, which is an example that I brought today, is Cowrie, or as Wally would say, ancient Cowrie. It's done in a face grain orientation. This one, which I call Ode to Maria. I love black on black pottery since I very first saw it, but I couldn't afford it. So I finally, as I say, made my own damn pot. And that's a piece of walnut from the Pueblo of Ben Lomond. Okay. From the vessels with the teeny tiny openings in the neck, like this one that John Jordan did, he went on to doing ones like this and did hundreds of them, and he's in the Smithsonian and the White House. He died last year. John was a kick. I went into the Instant Gallery at the San Jose symposium quite a few years ago now, and I'd go into the Instant Gallery during a session so there wouldn't be people in there, and John was in there for the same reason. He was looking at stuff. It was the first time when one of those vessels that has about 10,000 little pieces in it, and spirals and lines and, you know, segmented work. John walks over and looks in it. Just gives me a headache. And walked away. Yeah. And I talked to him, and there's a little bit of texture on this thing. That's a texture technique that I learned from John. Now, let's see what else we got. This one's interesting because I got this idea from David Ellsworth, where the center right there, that's the pith of the log. This is spalted tan oak, and gives you that lovely kind of sunburst effect and stuff. So that's another approach to doing them.
Do you have to turn that wet?
What?
Do you have to turn that wet?
I did turn it wet. Just about everything I do wet. I'm turning them thin. When I saw John demonstrate late 70s, whatever, in San Jose, somebody asked him, what would you do if you had to turn dry wood? And John said, I'd find something else to do. Okay, this guy, which used that technique of removing the neck, hollowing, and then putting the neck back in. And again, Roy did the belt. These guys are a pair, again, redwood root burl as opposed to lace burl. Charred top. Cremation urns. So these are useful for that. And this one has pewter, that's manzanita root with pewter infill. And it's the first thing I did with pewter, which I had no idea would become a thing that I would do many times more, but that one turned out pretty. Interesting thing about this is I didn't know what to do for the lid, so it was sitting around in my shop, and I knocked it off, and it broke, that the whole left side popped off. And I put it in the scrap box. And I got it back out and said I know how to fix it. Put it back together and carved more fissure around the bottom where it broke and filled that in with pewter. And said, aha, now it's worth $1,000. I use hollowing tools to do lampshades and stuff. Now hang on. We have an action shot next. There you go. That's the lamp in action. One of the things I wanted to point out with this thing and these is these two are face grain, like if you were turning a bowl kind of orientation, and this one is end grain orientation or spindle orientation, however you want to say it. So you can do them either way.